It's Debi Krichbaum, Hometown Advantage. I am an independent boutique broker, not affiliated with any company, no brand, no franchise or whatever, just my own company, my own boutique brokerage. And I am blown away by some of the headlines that have hit I'd say my newspaper, but you know what I mean, it's the laptop. Okay, the first crazy one is that N.A.R, the National Association of Realtors, was, I guess they lost. They're going to appeal, but apparently there were lawsuits going on that sellers and buyers, it sounds like, were suing for what appeared to be a collusion of fixed commissions. Okay, so to my point to that, part of why I'm an independent boutique broker is I felt the same strange thing. Most of the companies that are publicly traded companies, franchise type companies, I don't want to name any of them, but yes, they're all of the companies that are listed that you would know, completely agree. They would pressure the agents to get certain commissions, and if they didn't get a listing agreement with that certain amount on it, they were not impressed with the agent, and they kind of, down talked them and kind of gave them some shit. I'm not just an agent, I'm actually an owner broker, and to be a broker takes a lot more college classes. It takes a lot tougher a lot tougher exam. I've been a broker since 2003. I've been an agent since 1991. Here's my take on it. I completely agree. My commission structure is completely negotiable. I discuss it with the seller and or buyer. If I'm working with the buyer, I tend to do 80% of my clientele is the selling side, the listing side. But it is 100% negotiable. I have not seen any contract that I've written as a listing agent above 4% total commissions, I think in about 12 years, 14 years, something like that. So I guess I knew this was coming ahead of time. Depending on the property, the speed that I can sell it at, the market, because it doesn't work in every market, and quite honestly, any other details that affect the house. Is it beautiful? Is it turnkey? Is it a fixer? Is it cosmetically dated? I actually charge the seller between 1.5% to 2% of the listing sales price is what I believe is a fair earned compensation on my part as their representative. Now, there's very little for me to spend, if you will, on marketing costs. Everything's digital these days, so it's pretty affordable. But it's my expertise, and it's my 33 years of being a broker and my street smarts and my knowledge that will keep you and your clients, whatever, from getting into lawsuits. I've had 0 lawsuits in 33 years. I've represented a tremendous number of clients, and that is what you get with a boutique broker that's not a corporate broker. It's not a franchise. So nobody's breathing down my neck trying to get me to do what's best for the company instead of what's best for the client. So I actually think it's kind of some good headlines in a weird way. As far as who gets compensated by who, I think it's always been really weird that the seller has to pay to compensate the buyer's agent as well. That makes no sense. It's like if you were working with an attorney, defense and the prosecutor, can you imagine if one paid the other? No, that's weird. So what I propose would be kind of cool, actually, is if the seller only paid the seller's representative, and then if the buyer wants to not pay anybody, come to me, the listing agent, directly, and then everybody saves money. But if you want your own representative, then you should have to buck up and pay for it. So people argue, well, what if it's a first-time buyer and they don't have it? Figure it out. There's closing costs involved in purchasing a home. Some closing costs can be rolled into your interest rate. You can talk to your lender about that. Sometimes you've got generous and helpful parents who are willing to help you get into your first home. Now, there is always that possibility that you could negotiate the price with the seller. Let's say that you bought a house and you offered $300,000 and it was listed for $300,000. You're allowed, so long as your lender says that you qualify for it, to raise the purchase price and cover closing costs. So let's say you wanted to pay your agent $6,000. You could negotiate the settlement price with the seller at $300,000. have the agent do an addendum or an amendment, raise the price to $306,000, thereby you're putting into the price of the home your buyer's agent's representative compensation. But quite frankly, if you come straight to the listing agent, I know for myself, when I'm working with both parties, it's less complicated. You don't have another agent trying to kind of muck it up. And so about 10 or 15% of the transactions I have done over the course of my 33 years, I've represented both sides. I can't make a seller bring his price down, and I can't make a buyer pay more. So there's really not a lot to negotiate. You're either going to agree on the price or you're not. If you do a home inspection and there's things to fix, the buyer's always able to ask the seller to help compensate. The seller can agree, the seller can disagree, the buyer can cancel, the buyer can stick with it. So there's nothing that an agent who's in a dual, representation position can do to bully anybody into completing the transaction. So as far as the whole N.A.R thing goes, I'm sitting also on the fence, kind of wondering, I don't really think that they do anything for me personally. But what I do know is a little bit of a holdup is all of the documentation that all of us real estate agents use are forms created by the Association of Realtors. So for all the companies that are jumping ship, that are not going to any longer be in the N.A.R, somebody's got to create a non-realtor branded group of offer papers, disclosures, etc., that we can all utilize without it being, if we're not realtors, we can't use the realtors paperwork. So that's kind of something that somebody needs to kind of step in and figure out. Other than that, what I think is awful is I just read a headline that Zillow, of all companies who puts out a tremendous amount of consumer data, has just said in a headline, and let me read it to you, if you buy a house now, it can take 13 and a half years to make a profit on your home sale. So help me out here. Why would you buy a house? I mean, rates are super high. You read headlines from Zillow, it's going to take you 13 and a half years to make a profit from the sale. Where did that come from? I mean, the headlines we're getting these days are just knee-jerk reaction craziness. I would say this. There are a lot of sellers who can help their own situation, and here's how. If you have a tremendous amount of equity, you don't have to cash out and get it all. You can carry a note against your property for your buyer at an interest-only reduced rate. We've put offers in this year on properties asking the seller to pay, to cover the mortgage of say 80% at say 5% interest only. So that means we come and we plunk down 20%. They carry the note, so they're getting money on their dollars. They don't necessarily need it out all at once. That's a great way to sell a house. If somebody has a VA or FHA loan, guess what? The next buyer, if they can qualify and actually take over that loan at the rate that you got it at. So, I mean, there's so many strategies that don't take being an Association of Realtors person, doesn't take being a corporate real estate agent from like some big box brokerage. So whatever headlines you're reading, if it's panicking you these days, what I think is you need the right advocate on your side. Someone like myself, a boutique broker who's in it for the right reasons. If you're interested, my website is godebi.com. That's GODEBI.com. Love to help. If I can help you out, let me know. Talk to you soon.